Have you ever looked up at a ceiling fan spinning above you and wondered why it almost always has 3, 4, or 5 blades? It's such a common sight that most of us never question it. Yet if engineers can design fans with 1 blade, 2 blades, or even a dozen blades, why did the world settle on this particular range? Is it simply a matter of appearance, or is there a hidden balance between airflow, efficiency, noise, and cost that shaped the fans hanging in our homes today? Today we will uncover why the number of blades became one of the most carefully calculated choices in everyday engineering, right here on History of Simple Things. Ceiling fans have been around for much longer than many people realize. Long before electric motors existed, people searched for ways to move air indoors during hot weather. In the late 1800s, some large buildings used ceiling fans powered by belts connected to water wheels or steam engines. When electricity became more common in the 1880s, inventors began creating electric ceiling fans, making them practical for homes and businesses. Early designs varied quite a bit, and there was no universal agreement on how many blades a fan should have. Engineers were still learning what worked best. At first glance, it might seem logical that more blades would always be better. After all, more blades mean more surface area pushing air around the room. But fan design turns out to be more complicated than that. A ceiling fan works by moving air efficiently, and efficiency depends on a delicate balance between the motor, the blade shape, the blade angle, and the number of blades attached to the hub. To understand why 3 to 5 blades became the norm, it helps to imagine what happens when a fan spins. Each blade cuts through the air, creating lift in a way somewhat similar to an airplane wing. The blade pushes air downward, creating the breeze we feel below. However, every blade also creates drag, which is resistance that the motor must overcome. Adding more blades increases airflow to a point, but it also increases drag and weight. This is where the story gets interesting. Engineers discovered that a fan with only 1 blade is technically possible, but it creates balance problems. A single blade would need a counterweight on the opposite side to keep the fan from wobbling. Even then, the airflow would be uneven. A 2-blade fan solves some of those issues and can actually move air very efficiently. In fact, some modern industrial and energy-efficient fans use only 2 blades. However, 2-blade fans tend to rotate faster and can sometimes produce more noticeable noise and vibration. For home use, manufacturers wanted something that felt smoother and quieter. By the early 20th century, 3-blade fans began gaining popularity because they struck an excellent balance. 3 blades provided more consistent airflow than 2 while keeping weight and drag relatively low. The motor did not have to work as hard, and the fan could operate efficiently for long periods. In places where energy costs mattered, this efficiency was a significant advantage. Then came 4-blade fans. These became especially popular in homes during the mid-1900s. A 4-blade design offered a slightly gentler airflow and often operated more quietly because it did not need to spin as fast to move a comfortable amount of air. Many homeowners also preferred the symmetrical appearance. Interestingly, aesthetics played a larger role than most people realize. Ceiling fans are not just machines, they are pieces of furniture attached to the ceiling. Manufacturers learned that people cared about how a fan looked just as much as how it performed. Five-blade fans eventually became one of the most recognizable styles in residential settings. If you walk into homes, hotels, schools, or offices around the world, chances are you'll see a five-blade ceiling fan. The reason is not that five blades dramatically outperform four. In fact, the difference in airflow is often surprisingly small. Instead, five blades became popular because they offered a combination of stable operation, quiet performance, attractive appearance, and strong consumer appeal. Over time, people simply came to associate five blades with a quality ceiling fan. One surprising fact is that more blades do not necessarily mean more wind. Many people assume a 6, 7, or 8-blade fan must create a stronger breeze than a 3-blade fan. In reality, adding too many blades can actually reduce efficiency. The blades begin interfering with the airflow created by the blades ahead of them. The motor must also work harder to overcome additional drag. That's why industrial ceiling fans in warehouses often have fewer blades than decorative residential fans. Their designers prioritize moving the maximum amount of air with the least amount of energy. Another factor is noise. As a fan spins, each blade disturbs the air around it. More blades generally allow a fan to operate at lower speeds while maintaining comfortable airflow, which can reduce perceived noise. However, too many blades can create their own aerodynamic sounds. Once again, engineers found that somewhere around 3 to 5 blades provided a practical sweet spot. Cost also influenced the evolution of ceiling fan design. Every additional blade requires more materials, more manufacturing, and more assembly work. When companies produce millions of fans, even a small increase in material costs becomes significant. Manufacturers therefore had a strong incentive to use only as many blades as necessary. The fact that so many companies independently settled on 3, 4, or 5 blades is a clue that those numbers represent an efficient compromise. Today, modern computer modeling allows engineers to test countless blade shapes and configurations before building a single prototype. As a result, some newer fans break traditional design rules. You may occasionally see fans with 2 blades, 6 blades, or even unusual curved designs. Yet despite all these innovations, the classic 3 to 5 blade fan remains incredibly common because it continues to solve the same engineering challenges that designers faced more than a century ago. The next time you switch on a ceiling fan, take a moment to look at the blades overhead. Their number wasn't chosen by accident. It represents decades of experimentation, balancing airflow, energy efficiency, noise, cost, and appearance. What seems like a simple household appliance is actually the result of generations of engineers refining a design that most of us rarely think about. And that's the fascinating story behind why ceiling fans usually have 3 to 5 blades. A small detail hiding a surprisingly clever piece of everyday engineering. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.